And welcome back to our special post-election edition of the Correspondents on Voice of America. I'm Arcega. Well, people across the globe woke up to a very different world this week when they learned that American voters had elected Donald Trump to be the next U.S. president. It may be one of the most closely watched elections, perhaps since the Second World War, possibly one of the most consequential for citizens of the world, one that is likely to transform American policy and America's role in the international community. VOA's Luis Ramirez files this report from London.
For Londoners, the shock news smacked of that morning back in June when they learned, despite poll predictions, Britain had voted to leave the European Union. A leap into the unknown is how leaders across the world and the markets see it. The dollar dipped in early trading given Donald Trump's comments during the campaign that he will tear up trade agreements and offer no guarantees to members of NATO who do not pay their share. China has reason to worry. Trump has targeted Beijing's trade practices, threatening to slap 45% tariffs on Chinese imports. Trump won on an America First platform. For Africa, analysts say that means expectations are realistic and tempered.
And if there was a time that Africa should start thinking of African solutions to African problems, the time is now.
And time now to bring our international experts into this conversation. And joining us from our London headquarters, we have senior European correspondent Luis Ramirez, who filed that report for us, along with our senior diplomatic correspondent and global traveler, Steve Herman. Great to have both of you gentlemen on the program. Luis, I'm going to start with you. That was a fine report. Is there any sense around the world that perhaps U.S. priorities are going to change substantially under a Trump administration?
That's a very, very big concern. In fact, that's the biggest concern because what people are saying overseas is that never before, or at least in the last century, has such an illiberal president been elected to lead a very liberal nation. The United States has built its economic diplomacy on free trade agreements, on the promotion of globalization, of taking down trade barriers and of uniting the world through commercial links. And now, with the remarks that Mr. Trump has made during his campaign, that is up in the air. It's a big question, and that's what leaders in Europe and across the world want to know. Was he serious?
Steve, in your many travels, you have seen how the rest of the world sees the image of the United States. Are we, as Luis suggests, still seen as a liberal country, or has our image changed over the last few days?
Well, I think there is a huge question mark over what the United States is right now.
What do we stand for, right? I mean,
the cover of Der Spiegel, the big magazine in Germany right now, shows Donald Trump as a huge orange meteor plunging towards the earth, and the headline is "The End of the World as We Know It."
So you're suggesting it's not good?
Well, I think there's definitely tremendous anxiety. Even, say, when we have a transition between presidents of the same party, I can tell you that in Japan and South Korea, other parts of Asia, there's extreme nervousness about subtle shifts in policy and how it's going to affect them. And when we have this huge, spectacular change, you can imagine the level of anxiety right now.
I want to talk to you about some of those subtle changes in just a bit, but I want to get Luis back into this. Luis, you know, British lawmakers once famously discussed banning Donald Trump from the country. There was a petition going around. Is he still a polarizing figure there in the UK? What kind of a reception is he likely to get if he were to visit London now?
Well, I'll tell you, the mood here has certainly shifted from the days when he was a candidate to now that the reality has set in that he is the president-elect and that as of January, he is going to be the leader of the free world. And so the talk more now is he will be welcomed. People do want him, I'm talking about the leadership, sure. Want him to come, and they want to meet with him, because they want to know, was what he said during the campaign exaggerated campaign hype, or was it actually his principles that he was putting forth there? And so what the leaders want to hear now, they want to meet with him, and they want clarification.
Sure. And Steve, part of that concern is the United States' role in this giant alliance called NATO. I mean, what are the concerns now about that alliance moving forward with Donald Trump suggesting that we're going to ask our members to put in a bigger share?
Well, that wasn't only the case in Europe, but also in Asia with the military alliances with Japan and South Korea. Tremendous uncertainty, and as Luis said, leaders want to come talk to him personally. He was on the phone Friday morning with Angela Merkel in Germany. He had a conversation already with Shinzo Abe, who's going to come to the United States on his way to the APEC meeting in Lima to have a meeting. And that is, for the Japanese leader to do that on such short notice.
How would you characterize Angela
nervous
Merkel's, was it a congratulations to Donald Trump, or was it more, we're watching you, we're going to see what you do?
Well, what we have initially is what came out from the German Foreign Office. There's very little information on these sort of phone calls coming out from the transition campaign, and quite similar, I think, to what has come out from the summaries of other conversations. Obviously, congratulations being extended, hopes for early meetings, and continuing the partnership. What filters out to us, to the media from the officials are very sanitized statements of what may be discussed. But I think in these initial conversations, as we saw yesterday in the White House, everything is very diplomatic, is very much looking forward. No overt expressions of anxiety, no lecturing going on at this point.
Luis, Steve was just talking about that first face-to-face meeting between Donald Trump and President Obama at the White House. Did that at all help to ease some of the concerns about a peaceful transition that many of our international friends might have right now?
I think so, because what people have been saying around the world so far is only the outrageous remarks and the insults, though. What he has said about Mexicans, what he has said about banning Muslims from the United States. And so this was something that was very much welcomed when, first of all, when he gave his victory speech and he talked about dealing with everyone fairly and seeking common ground, not hostility. That was quite reassuring for a lot of people here. And of course his meeting with President Obama, where he called him a good man. Well, this showed us a side of Donald Trump. This showed the world a side of Donald Trump that they hadn't really seen in the campaign. Some leaders, like as Steve was just mentioning, really during the campaign, reserved judgment on him. Angela Merkel was very measured in her remarks when she was asked.
Right.
But if we have time, I'll add that in the statement that she made when she congratulated him, she made it clear that she wanted to deal with him, but on the basis of respect.
I don't have a lot of time right now, but I do need to ask you, Steve, what happens to our relations with Russia now? Do we give them a pass for the hacking infringements that we've seen over the last little while? How's that going to go forward?
Well, I can't imagine that there's going to be a pivot before Inauguration Day. I don't think the outgoing administration is going to change very much. With the incoming administration, it could be historic. We could see a tremendous shift, and we have seen that in the relations between...
There were so many issues I wanted to discuss, including climate change, but I will not have the time for that. But thank you, Steve Herman and Luis Ramirez in London. Still ahead, President Obama's legacy. Does a Trump victory wipe out everything he's accomplished over the last 8 years? That's next.